Welcome to another episode of the Pennock Knockdown, a podcast where we unpack key tactics and strategies for digital marketing. I've got a really fun guest on the show today, Maggie Dwyer. Maggie is an influencer specialist, a social media expert, and all things in between for the organic and creator side of everything we do in digital for e-commerce brands specifically. So Maggie, super excited to have you on the show today.
Thank you so much, Nikki.
So tell us a little bit about what you were doing before you joined the agency you're currently with.
So I actually started at Fable Mane. I was a marketing coordinator and grew into a creative kind of person role that was within the social side. That was the side that I really loved. And I also supported their launch into Sephora US and Boots UK stores when they first launched. And as this was kind of growing, Akash, the founder of Fable Mane, wanted to also build his own agency. And he's an entrepreneur himself. So he had a lot of clients already really interested in kind of working with him directly. So from there, we built an agency that initially wasn't influencer and social media focused only. It was also website building, supporting with PPC and different kind of things. But we found that the influencer marketing side was definitely our strongest side. And we saw that we could offer something that no one else is really offering. We had a huge network of influencers that we were able to utilize across multiple different clients. And then from there, really build out those relationships. So Kawanu is the agency that is now developed into, and we predominantly work with fragrance brands and beauty brands across influencer marketing and social media.
I'm glad you called it out by name. So Kuanu is the name of the agency. I didn't realize that you guys acquired it. I assumed you built it from the ground up. That's so cool.
Yeah, I feel like it's my baby. Yeah, I've been here from the start.
Yeah.
Just built the team out and built out the kind of services and clients. So yeah.
Awesome. So, okay, so you mentioned beauty and fragrance is sort of like your jam right now. Tell us a little bit about what people who are maybe doing your world of marketing, maybe not to the fullest extent and are missing things or leaving room on the table. Where would you get started if you're like, gosh, I haven't really stacked up this part of my e-commerce business and my awareness quite yet?
Yeah, so I think influencer marketing is a really kind of interesting marketing initiative to implement if you've got a new launch or you want to really build an awareness campaign out. So I think in terms of starting, it's all to do with the budget, number one. There's different ways that you can work with influencers. The main way that brands do it is through paid collaborations. So from there, you can kind of build out these proposals beforehand, look at the budget and understand what we expect to get in terms of reach and awareness. But if you have lower budgets, there's always other kind of ways that you can activate influencer marketing also. So through gifting or maybe kind of, events or having those one-to-ones with influencers and building a personal relationship. There are other ways to do it. But in terms of a big awareness campaign, I would say budget is key, really.
And Maggie and I have had the privilege to overlap at a brand before. So I've seen some of her work firsthand, which is brilliant. What would you say about many service providers like us are jumping into the fold day in, day out? Many of them might not have influencer relationships already. What are the benefits, I guess, of you have a whole Rolodex, right? So why would one want to work with you even at a premium versus go find someone on Fiverr or Upwork who really is just trying to figure it out with your budget?
Yeah, I mean, I think the experience and extensive kind of client world that I've been involved with gives me kind of an edge, and I've been there from really the beginning of when influencer marketing has come around. I understand also kind of the ins and outs of the best practice, and I think some people or brands might not know this, so I do a lot of time educating brands as well in terms of how we should handle a campaign, for example. So they might not be aware that expecting content back from just gifting someone isn't really the best practice also, which I've seen some brands would expect. I understand also why they would, but understanding from the influencer's perspective as well is where I can kind of support as well.
At Kawanu, are you guys managing any influencers or is it purely the brand side?
Yeah, so we work directly with the agents who manage the influencers. So we don't manage any influencers directly, but we have a huge roster of influencers that we've got a really good relationship with globally that we've worked with for the last 5 years.
Love it. Okay, great. So it sounds like the value add is not just like, hey, Maggie and her team can go out and actually like get you creators, but they can, and influencers, but you guys are building strategy for them around like what the campaign archetype should look like and things of that sort. Budget plays into this, I'm 100% certain of, but like when is it a good idea for brands to be working with you for like always on to make sure they hit a quantity or impression volume every single month versus really just kind of use it maybe seasonally with launches or what have you?
That's a really good question. I think, in terms of always on and how we've worked with clients before and how we currently do as well, is usually the always on is because the requirement of content creation. So we want to daily post on TikTok, we want to daily post on Instagram, we want to have that kind of appearance continually. And I think the always on strategy is very important in that aspect. And that ties into the social strategy, the paid strategy, kind of an overarching 360. In terms of a bigger campaign where you might collaborate with top tier influencers, celebrity influencers, this would be more campaign led, dependent on whether you're trying to shape your brand identity in a certain way or you've got a new launch that you really want to build a huge awareness campaign around. It really depends on the objective, really.
Yeah. Okay. Then I've heard over the years, like the concept, I'm going to call it more of like the ambassador play. I feel like there's a lot of words in your world that probably get thrown out and everyone has a different meaning for them. So apologies if I'm doing it wrong right here. But the idea of working with an influencer or creator for an extended period of time and not just like a one and done post from them, perhaps. Are you finding that this ongoing relationship is beneficial? Does it vary? Like what's your take on getting someone to sign on for an extended period of time to partner?
Yeah, I think it's whether they're working for the brand, number one, if the brand wants to have a long-term partnership, and also if the influencer wants to have this long-term partnership. We have done this in the past, and we've built brand ambassadors, like you said, for brands, where this long-term relationship is continuing. And I think it's really important for brands to be able to have a brand ambassador, but it takes time to develop that relationship, number one, and number two is finding the right brand ambassador for your brand. So the way to maybe find them is through campaigns and through having these relationships and building that over time, then seeing who really resonates with our brand, whose audience is really resonating with our brand, and then from there building that relationship out.
How have you leveraged creators and influencers for brands that maybe don't have founders or senior staff members who want to be storytelling about like how they stacked up this business? Are you able to bring in influencers to maybe like share some of the things that like either the founder or the brand side has either been like too timid or hasn't figured out how to crack the code to that particular message?
That's a good question. I think a lot of the brands that I work with currently, so we've got like JLo fragrances, Ariana Grande fragrances, they're celebrity led, right? And that really helps. But with brands like Ghost fragrances, for example, they don't necessarily have a founder. So the way that they're kind of shifting their perception is they've just recently done a restage and they're collaborating with influencers to communicate what's new, right? They're vegan now and all these different aspects that the brand can communicate, but it comes across as more credible when it comes from an influencer. So we've done it in that way, yeah.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, because even on the paid side, which my agency specializes in, sometimes there's like an angle or a hook that we really need to start to articulate better to a client, and all good intentions, but for whatever reason, the message just isn't resonating when created in branded assets that become ads. And so I was just curious to see if you had any experience of like having creators maybe lead that message with more success than maybe the brand can.
Got it. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Okay, so tell me, you kind of told me maybe not necessarily an ick, but like some of the things you have to educate brands on, which is a pure gift. I'm giving you product. You may or may not review it, has been something you've had to educate brands on because the expectation sometimes is, well, I gave them product. Where's my post? Are there other common misconceptions that you're still seeing today in 2025?
Yeah, I think with new clients that I work with, I kind of see similar things. So, for example, there's a big campaign happening. They expect conversion straight away, but they've just entered this new market, for example. And I think it's really about setting the expectations from the beginning and understanding the marketing funnel and how that kind of plays into the other digital activity that the brand is doing, for example. So, when we do these proposals, we say this is the awareness phase, and this is how it can feed in later, because a lot of brands do expect the conversion straight away, and that's something that I think can't be directly expected from a one-off influencer campaign, for example, in a new market for a new launch.
That makes sense. And what is the common, like, let's talk about maybe an emerging brand in the fragrance space that is not celebrity led, so a lot less visibility than some of the brands you mentioned. What is the timeline? So let's say they want to get something really compelling out there for holiday season coming up at the end of November with Black Friday, Cyber Monday. How far in advance should they actually like have signed with you so that you can build the awareness through to like the conversion phase or like your phased approach? Like, I think the timeline from start to actual results, or actual awareness lift is sometimes hard for brands to understand.
Yeah, definitely. That's a good point, actually, timeline. So I would say from briefing to the actual execution of the influencers going live, 3 months minimum. The more planning we have, the better. And if it's a new brand, it depends on how much training we need in terms of the branding and meeting the team and how big their team is, for example. So if it's a small team, we can be really flexible and agile, but I would say a bigger team, 3 months, 3 to 4 months.
Okay. How do I position this? Because I don't like, my goal here is not to understand your agency fees necessarily, but like what budget towards influencers and creators is too small to even like work with?
It's a good question. I mean, it really does depend on the objective. So I think we can work with any budget, but then again, the expectation needs to be there. So for a huge awareness campaign, right, 100K, that's great. 500K, amazing. 50K, we could work with that. But for these smaller budgets, I think the kind of objective or expectation of the campaign should be slightly different. So, for example, maybe we work with a few smaller creators and then we allocate more of the budget towards the paid media side, and then they can kind of work in harmony in that sense. So maybe we don't allocate all of the budget for influencers, we put it towards the paid, because combining the two is something that we've seen work so well. And I think a lot of brands now expect any influencer campaign to be alongside the paid campaign. So dependent on the budget, I would push maybe 60% paid, 40% influencer, even on a small kind of scale.
And then, so does this mean when you talk about paid, so like you guys at Kuanu, you are running the creators and then influencers, and then you are like whitelisting them through ads manager, or you're sparking them to then run the dollars behind the creator content?
Exactly. Yeah, we do that. So we do that on the influencers channel. So we're not doing paid in terms of getting the content and boosting it on the brand's handle or something. We're doing it directly on the channel, which is
Got
a
it.
really cohesive campaign now and kind of strategy that I've seen work really
Okay.
well across most
So
campaigns.
then the brand is not, the association is clearly the product because the influencer is talking about the brand and the product, but the end consumer of the content only sees the creator's handle. They see nothing about the brand. Okay. Is there a world in which you are not running the dollars behind influencer, or is it just like you have to at
No,
this
no,
point?
no. I mean, the big campaigns and the big budgets, that's where we can really do it because we've got the leverage of the budget. But for smaller budget campaigns, we don't tend to do the paid alongside. I mean, you could do both. But in an ideal world, doing both, really to drive the awareness piece would be ideal.
Yeah.
But of course, you can do it without the paid as well. Yeah.
When you guys are working with brands, what level of like e-commerce data, other marketing channel data, like what else do you really want from your brand as a good partner to be able to have good strategy and like visibility into the business?
Yeah, that's a good question because a lot of the brands that we work with are just retailer led. However, one of our key clients, Ghost Fragrances, is D2C. So we are able to track the conversions directly, which really helps our strategy. I mean, we lose the data when working with brands that are just through retailers, and we have to assume or see the uplift during the same period of the sellout data and things like that. So having that visibility really does help shape the strategy. You can see really who is converting directly and how many click throughs and all these different kind of metrics that we can measure. So it is better to have a D2C and measurability in that sense. Yeah.
Love it. All right. If someone is like fresh out of uni or college and they're trying to figure out if this is a lane for them, like what advice would you give them around like trying to figure out one, how to do it successfully, and two, make a career of it?
Yeah, okay. So someone that's interested in social media, number one, and trends, and maybe they create content themselves to from there, brands can reach out to you and they can understand how that relationship can work. That could be one particular, direction. Another could be to freelance. So a lot of agencies, a lot of influencer marketing and social media agencies take on freelancers. And I think it's a great way to kind of dip your toe and kind of test if that's a route that you'd like to go down. And a lot of agencies are offering this, so that could be a good route as well.
Yeah, love it. This is a really related question, so the answer could be the same. But if you were to rewind to your early 20s and what you were kind of doing, figuring stuff out, what advice would you give yourself?
I would say that keep working hard, keep an open mind. I think I did do that, and I think everything kind of worked really well for me. I loved what I did, and I had the great opportunities, and I was able to learn quickly and develop into a career that I love. So I would just say keep going and trust the process. If you're enjoying something, keep at it, and you will improve. And that's kind of been what's happened. So yeah.
Love it. All right. Well, Maggie, it was so great to have you on the show today. I appreciate you taking the time to educate us on the influencer world, and we look forward to having you back another time.
Thank you so much, Nikki. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.